Hello. As you know, I'm Brother Sean. I'm a lay monastic, a Christian who has embraced interfaith spirituality, and I live a very simple life as a Franciscan, a member of the Teo community of Franciscan Universalist monks, following a vision given to our hearts in 2006 and again in 2008 to establish the lay monastic community, an online community for men and women to come together in love and to break down all divisions that religion has been at the heart of discontent, and naming and shaming a loving God for man's inhumanity to man. But I would like to share with you some personal thoughts on the new traditions of contemplative wisdom, if you will allow me. The word contemplative highlights the core of the spiritual life, a return to that divine reality in which the transformation of the whole person finds its source and rest. Contemplation also implies a temporary liberation from daily concerns in order to devote oneself to study and practice. It is a kind of spiritual protest against the materialism and the bustle of society in order to live in the world attentive to the presence of the holy. Learning in a contemplative model implies the operation of a deeper level of consciousness and a greater receptivity of heart. Here the normal activities of the human personality come to rest in order to hear what has remained unheard and to see what has been hidden or veiled. The mystics call this kind of knowing unknowing, insofar as it approaches reality from the spiritual core of the person and not from the mind alone. Far more than a meditative practice or a temporary respite from worldly concerns, contemplation revolutionizes conventional attitudes and roles in order to transform the foundation upon which life is lived and to illuminate the hidden teaching of love inscribed in the very innermost part of our soul. While contemplation and mysticism throughout much of history have been associated with formal religious institutions, they both precede and exceed religion itself. New traditions of contemplation, however, interfaith, interspiritual, intermonastic, eco-theological and eco-feminist, pass beyond religious forms into deep states of consciousness that, while remaining part of the enduring wisdom of the world's religious traditions, also are the site of new spiritual traditions and forms of practice. This emergence of a new and global spirituality expresses the timeless qualities of the monastic contemplative experience outside of denominational institutions and structures, based on an understanding of the profoundly dialogic nature of truth. Through the lens of this global spirituality, new contemplative traditions seek the mystical point of oneness that unites in ourselves the divisions of the world. Open to the plurality of spiritual paths, this search for a common spirituality is not a reality ever fully achieved, a finished theological project, or a final word. Rather, it is the struggle to find the oneness of heart, in which life is embraced and sustained. Its theology emerges out of the desert experience because it fosters a spirituality of humility receptive to the voice of the divine speaking in the wilderness of our hearts. It is the mystical heart of that divine oneness calling us to surrender our heart to truth. The roots of these new contemplative paths can be traced to the spirit of the desert experience and the wisdom of feminine divine consciousness, based on the unity of the holy in creation, my work is committed to the practice and study of new spiritual traditions that are being realized in the hearts and souls of people from diverse backgrounds and orientations. This transformative movement is alive and well, and this transformative moment in human consciousness honors the centrality of the divine in the life of the individual and the prophetic call for spiritually transformed leaders in our communities today. At the center point of stillness open to the transcendent mystery of life, global spiritual wisdom follows the wayless way to the heart of a desert spirituality fully open to life. Intrinsic to all people and spiritual traditions, this monastic dimension of consciousness is the crucible in which the self is transfigured and new visions of the sacred gestate and are given form. Committed to this contemplative archetype, my hope is that we celebrate as a human community the individual search for meaning in a context that is theologically open, deeply non-violent, and receptive to the wisdom of the earth. Differing from classical spiritual paths in 5 important respects, new traditions of contemplative wisdom explore new spiritual paradigms and a common spiritual language. This is inclusive of the entire human divine earth community, honors the feminine and masculine spirit, and actively works to alleviate soul and societal suffering. It honors and upholds each person's spiritual source and tradition, whether understood and practiced in a specific religious or non-religious context. It embraces the shared legacy of the human spiritual quest, directed toward the heart of the contemplative ideal, rather than toward one tradition, prophet or savior. And realize that in order to become effective co-creators in the formation of new spiritual traditions, individuals need access to the sacred languages, traditions and disciplines that have sustained countless humans down throughout history. Foster the coming together in community without adhering to a common location, religion or structure by the spiritual capacity for self-reflection, discovery and growth, which from time immemorial has caused the human heart to measure itself against the splendor of an infinite horizon. And I leave you a quote. May our hearts be touched by the beauty of creation, and our souls be opened to the inflow of divine mystery granted to us this day. And what I've read to you really is the core values of the Teo community of Interfaith Franciscan Universalist monks. Yes, we are an online lay monastic community where members, brothers and sisters from different parts of the world embrace the divine from their own religious spiritual background and live their contemplative life from their monastery without walls. We don't have a formal monastery per se, but yes, here at our little monastery of St. Francis, it's seen as the mother house where members can come and have respite, where we care for them and love them, as is expected from our traditional Franciscan values of hospitality. But the vision is simple, to reach out to all faiths and none, to restore God's children who've been battered and wounded by the impact of religion, negative religion, and hence Magdalena appealing to our hearts to pray and set up the heart to soul interfaith prayer channel to send love and blessing to Jerusalem and the Abrahamic faith communities, Muslim, Jew and Christian, inviting brothers and sisters of those traditions to come into the 21st century and honour the spirit of God's law rather than adhere solely to the letter of ancient laws that no longer serve their highest good. Thank you.